What is up? What is up?
Ho, ho, ho. My God, thank God it's over. Thank God it's over, right?
That's funny.
It's beyond us. It's beyond us now.
Hey, you know, there's worse things than Christmas, but man, it stresses everybody out. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I love Christmas. It's great. The kids are getting older, and it's kind of sad because I kind of miss the little kid Christmas stuff,
Right.
But it's a good time. I like spending time with the family. It's good.
Well, the funny thing nowadays is that when we were kids, you went to the neighborhood, any neighborhood in the country, and Christmas morning, by 10 o'clock in the morning, the streets were full of kids, right? On skateboards,
RC
new
cars,
bikes,
bikes.
yeah, whatever, playing, baseball, whatever, anything they got. All you did was mass in the street or the cul-de-sac or whatever, and and you wanted to show what you got, and everybody wanted to play and have fun, and it was awesome. Now that hardly happens because every kid's getting video games and junk. You know what I mean? They're not outside anyway. You know what I mean? So
Oh, I know. Yeah, yeah.
it's
Luckily,
weird.
luckily, I've got some outside kids, so
Yes,
they were shooting hoops with the new basketballs, and Jake was
right.
getting race car parts for the S10, and it
Yeah,
was there was a little bit of video gaming in there. I'm not gonna
yeah,
lie,
yeah.
but they definitely
But they
spent a
do
healthy
more than
amount of
that.
time outside. Oh
Yeah, I know. I was laughing at Barrett because you saw Barrett that picture. He said, some assembly required. His kid was on the like the kitchen table with a whole tower assembly for a PC for a gaming computer that he was putting together. And I mean, I was like,
nope.
oh yeah. I remember those days of putting junk together, but oh yeah,
No,
no,
no.
yeah,
Power Wheels where I draw the line.
yeah. I was laughing the other day, about, we laugh about Christmas stuff, but I think I was with Barrett and Hollis. I was at PRI, and I was standing there talking to them and a couple other guys, and somebody says something about, hey, do you know anything about hopping up a Power Wheels? And I'm like, all I know is you hook a drill battery to them and they haul ass. I don't know anything more than that,
Yeah.
And I know that guys are putting other motors in them and all this stuff, but as far as I know, a 20-volt DeWalt makes that thing a rocket ship. So
Oh yeah.
I got nothing other than that, So
Yeah, it's kind of like a hot tune on a hyper-eutectic piston small block Chevrolet with a 300 shot of nitrous. It's going to last for a little while. It's going to haul ass.
yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah, when
It's
it
all
breaks,
fine.
it's going to break. It's going to.
Yeah,
be
it's
done.
fine. You let
Yeah.
the smoke out, it'll suck, but
Yeah.
Oh God. Well, I want to welcome everybody today. I want to give a shout out. Big thanks to Barn. Barnalicious is my dude. Anybody that watches our live broadcasts, all over the country, drag races everywhere, knows that Barn is the ban hammer wielding moderator of all drag racing chat live on the internet. And he's been with me for a long time. And Barn, dude, you are the man. And I really, really appreciate it. Also want to thank Edward, who's on as well, who started helping out this year. Also want to thank RTC. RTC is actually in the hospital right now. Not sure how much anybody needs to know, but he's okay, but he could use some mojo and some thoughts and prayers and what have you. So if you guys are so inclined, send them his way. RTC is another guy that has been around since the beginning. I remember that dude lives in Florida, and I remember going to do a live stream at a race there. God, back in the day, this is a long time ago. This was back when Dillard, as in Eric Dillard, Proline Eric Dillard, was, and I'm going to use the term nobody. Everybody in the world didn't know Proline. They weren't building Pro Mod, combos at the time for everybody yet. It was when it was early days of the 481X. I remember him coming out and running at, I believe it was Indy could have been Columbus for, maybe it was Columbus, but anyway, for NHRA Unleashed, which I was announcing way back in the day. And Dillard literally had a borrowed car and a 481X combo that he had put together that, everybody was like, that will never work, kind of thing. And for those of you that don't know what a 481X is, when you hear those, it's a big block Chevrolet. It's a, it's billet and it's all those things, but it's still nice. Big block. Yeah, it's still big block Chevrolet architecture and all that. So, so anyway, Dillard was driving the car, tuning the car, doing all this stuff. And obviously we know, where he's coming. He was a really sharp cat back then. The whole thing wasn't as big as it is now. So, but I remember being there and in Florida for one of those races, and RTC was with me, and, he just came out to say hi and hang out. And I literally was going through all my stuff and I was getting the live stream set up, and I pulled the stuff out, everything out of my big Pelican case, and I'm getting everything set up. And the one cord that I had to have to connect all of the stuff to the laptop was a cord you couldn't just buy anywhere. Okay. And TSA had apparently inspected the case, had one cord, that cord hanging out, and closed the case and about cut the cord in half. Oh. And then shoved it all back in there. And so RTC, is a little bit of a nerd too. So he's like, oh my God, what do we need to do? And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, he was an hour and a half from home or something like that. And he said, I have one of those cords. Because there was nowhere to buy one between where we were in Florida. And so he drove home, got it, and got back, and we were only like 20 minutes late starting the live stream, and it was all because of RTC. So and so super good dude. So he's been around since the OG days, and really appreciate it for sure. So so hopefully that dude is going to feel better for sure. Mike Alouette asking about the Triple B shirts. Wait for announcement coming in a few weeks when we do our first episode. That will be happening. We're going to make them ourselves. So I have some new stuff coming, so don't worry about that. That is coming soon. Looking through the chat here as well.
What's up, Bad Tree?
Bad Tree in the house. There's a lot of you guys. Great to see you guys here today. It's the last Triple B of 2023, which rhymes and is awesome. We have a special guest tonight who has been floating in and out. I think he's having issues with his internet or his computer or something. And so as soon as he's back, we'll start talking about him. But before we get to that, Ryan, the background you got behind you, the third annual Christmas cruise in, I call it the Fort Worth Christmas cruise. There you go. That's so good, dude. Yeah. And, so I was on the first one, just a group of friends and stuff that show up, with their hot rods and race cars and whatever. And, we literally meet up in Hearst at a Lowe's parking lot. Everybody hangs out there for like an hour, just BSing and bench racing and doing all the normal car guy stuff we all would do, drooling over each other's cars, and then we hit the road and just cruising around. In 75% of the cars, totally like normal, hot rod stuff, like no big deal. They're on the road. Other 25%, perhaps, don't have the tire that would be appropriate for December weather, whatever. It's fine.
DOT guy might have a question or two.
Maybe bringing raised white letters to a different meaning, on the side of the rear tires. It's fine. It's good. So, we had a really good time. It was cool. I rode with Ryan in his tow rig, with his son Jake. We shot a bunch of video and stuff, and we've got a cool teaser video we're going to share here in a couple of minutes for you guys to see what it's all about. But if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Christmas night, 2024, I mean, we got just under a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do it. We had how many cars were there? 66? Is
I
that
think
right?
the official count, I've been told that at the initial meet spot, there were 71 cars.
71.
And
And
when we
and
got
we
to the
had
final stop, we had about 56 or 7.
yeah. So, and
So,
because there were some people that just wanted to come and hang out in the parking lot
yeah.
and then make part of the drive or whatever. And it was cold out. It was when we left the meet spot, it was like 43 degrees.
Yeah, I think it was 40. Yeah, it was 43. And then by the
Yeah.
time we left the final spot, I think she was tagging 39. No wind, but still chilly.
Yeah. Well,
But
there
yeah, I
was
mean,
lots of wind when Jake and I were hanging out the windows of the truck trying to shoot video. The feels like temperature was colder than a witch's tit in a glass bra is what it was. Like,
notice that I asked you quite quickly, do you want to drive? And you answered, I don't care. And I was like, okay.
yeah, that's true. That's true. You did have the heated seat on full kill. I know. Yeah.
I did. Yeah. But no, I mean, to think about, Dave and I we were sitting on the crapper, 3 years ago. And he was like, man, I'm bored. You want to get the hot rods out and go cruise or something? I'm like, oh, a Christmas night cruise? And he was like, yeah. Well, let's just see who can do it. I was like, all right. So we invited the friends that we had, that we knew would probably be the most down people to get out on Christmas night, tell their wives, hey, I'm leaving to go do hot rod stuff.
Right.
And I think there was like 15 of us maybe that met up, and maybe 20. And last year we had probably 25 or 30. This year was like, I was blown away. And a lot of that
was awesome.
Is due to Michael Hollis sharing it around. And he kind of picked up the slack for me because this year, Dave is the idea guy. He didn't like to be the forefront guy. And so usually I'm more the forefront guy, but I had a lot of stuff going on. So I kind of was on the fence of whether I'd been kind of sick and on the fence of whether we were going to actually be able to pull it off. My truck wasn't done. That was kind of bumming me out. So, but I'm really, really glad we made it happen. And it's a tradition that's going to have to just keep on continuing because it was awesome.
It was. And it's funny because we're saying, it was cold, and it was, but that was great because a week before the weather was showing that it was supposed to be raining on Christmas, and we got rid of all the rain on Christmas Eve. So that was awesome. So it was dry, and it was really nice. Again, it was chilly, but it was totally perfect. It feels like you're at the street races hanging out in a parking lot with a bunch of your friends.
No traffic. It's just desolate.
Yeah.
It's just, you're just out there making noise and nobody really cares.
No, nobody cares because there's literally nobody on the road. It's pretty neat. So it was a good time had by all. There were some cars there that you guys will recognize. Some pretty well-known rides from the Dallas-Fort Worth area that showed up, which is cool. A lot of drag and drive guys were on hand. Oh my God, his name is going to escape me, but he's the dude with the VW.
Clint Cox.
Clint. Okay, so I talked to Clint about his bug named Walter. And if you have not seen, it's like this maroon patinaed bug. You have to ask him the story behind this thing. In fact, we'll get him on the show one time next year to tell the story, but he actually inherited that car and not from a family member. It's just a crazy cool story. And he's getting that thing ready to do some drag and drives with it in 2024, which is cool. I did talk to Matt Frost yesterday morning for a while. And we were talking about Rocky Mountain Race Week 1.0 and 2.0 for next year, and going to be some cool stuff. Also, don't forget, it is the 20th anniversary of Drag Week next year. And so Matt is going again. Last year, or this year, Matt broke his car. He was leading Drag Week when it broke. And that thing is a beast. They know why it broke, and it's fixed and going to be cool. But he's going. There are several of us that were on the very first Drag Week that are going again. And in fact, the majority of the people I have talked to are bringing the car that they came on the very first Drag Week in. So that's a cool deal. So some stuff being pulled out of the mothball fleet, so to speak. So it should be pretty neat. So I want to say hi to Dan Parker. the world's fastest blind man, is legitimately is in the house tonight. So glad to see you here, Dan. Jet is asking if Freiburger's going to be on Drag Week this year. I would assume so, as the 20th anniversary, edition. So it's gonna be cool. I am going to bring Rusty, my '56 Chevy wagon, which has not been on the road or been seen by anybody in, oh God, going on close to probably 7 or 8 years now, maybe 9. Tim Grillo, hey Tim, hello, belated Merry Christmas to you as well. But yeah, so I'm bringing Rusty out. The car will look the same, but it will not be the same as previous versions. So that thing's going to get some love, which will be pretty neat. So I'm looking forward to that. Jet Black asking about the hood scoop still. That's the other wagon. That's the 66 wagon. So the 56 has no hood scoop. Everything fits under it. So, and it will continue to, but it will make approximately 4 times as much horsepower as it did before. Literally 4 times the power. So that should be fun. But let's, I'm going to play the Christmas video. And we're going to share that one, let you guys see that. And then we're going to invite our guest on because he is here and looks like he's got all his stuff working. So I'm going to play the old
little teaser.
Yeah, and you can see the full video. When are you planning on posting the full video?
I'm working on it right now. I'll probably have it out by, let's see, today's Wednesday. I'll try to shoot for Friday or Saturday.
Okay, so if you don't already follow Streetcar Chronicles on YouTube, then do it, you weirdo. It's just all kinds of goofy, fun stuff on the street and well, wherever.
Yeah,
the street,
shop,
the track,
wherever it's at. Yeah. Anything
exactly.
that has to do with hot rods, we're trying to be a part of it.
Exactly. All right, so here we go with Santa.
Oh, is it not showing any sound on your end?
It was really hard to get these shots too, folks, because not only was it cold, but everybody was hauling ass when we left the parking lot.
God, I was like, I think I announced, hey, everybody, we're going to kind of pull out in front of you and get up in front a little way so we can get some good rolling shots. And everybody's like, everybody to your cars. And then everybody started pulling out. I'm like, yeah, you didn't hear what I said. We really need to get out there. Yeah, it was a good time, though. What a great time. Yeah, it was a good time.
It was awesome.
It just keeps getting better and better. And I've got things planned for next year that are going to be a lot better, a lot different, and hopefully everybody.
Well, and there's, the other thing is that guys were talking about it, Hollis and several others, about doing some other cruises during the year as well. And, maybe doing, 2 or 3 others throughout the year. I mean, again, it's you just do them one night or one afternoon or whatever. It's not a big deal. It doesn't take a big time suck, commitment or whatever.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, you think about it. Like, of course, I had a 2-hour drive in, right? So I left at 5 o'clock to get there, right? And I didn't get home till about 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
but the drive, I don't care about that. I mean, I made the choice to drive out here. It's not that big a deal. But just think that from 7 until call it 11. We were hanging out with our second family, which is awesome.
And I mean, there were a bunch of kids there.
Yeah.
I mean, there had to be 30 or 40 kids there, with their, parents or aunts and uncles and whoever. And everybody's having a good time. I mean, it was really neat. So
just think about the cool stories, like you think about cool stories somebody told about their uncle or their dad or, think about the cool stories those kids will have. Like, man, I remember my dad used to take me out to this cruise on Christmas night, and all these hot rods would get together, and people do burnouts, do crazy stuff, and it was just a good time.
Yeah,
and that's what it's all about making memories and having a good time.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, and we had a good time for sure. So, hey, I'm gonna add the other Chad in.
Chad.
If you guys don't follow Square Body stuff on YouTube, you should.
You should.
This guy. Okay, so here I'm gonna add you in there. So Chad, you you gotta unmute yourself there, Chad. So Chad is a whole different kind of screwed up. I mean, you're rocking the good beard. I appreciate it. I mean, you're a good looking guy because hello, Chad.
Yeah.
But nobody in their right mind being the key here, thinks that hot rodding a 305 is a good idea unless it's still in a 3rd gen Camaro. And yet you went all in, like stroker, the whole thing.
Also with the granny low 4-speed backing it up.
Oh yeah, because nothing says hot rod like SM465. Wow. Yeah, dude, you are a different breed of screwed up, but you are welcome, my friend. So thanks for joining us. We do appreciate you being here.
I appreciate you having me on. And also it's got a 14-bolt full floater in the rear. It's a weird combination, but I'm having a blast with it, and yeah.
Yeah, Chad is a. So I found Chad. I'll give you a little backstory on how I met Chad. I found Chad during the COVID. Stay at home, everybody hide from the wind.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I got sick and tired of watching the news. I started stumbling around on YouTube, and I really had only used YouTube to watch like racing videos and stuff like that, right? And so I stumbled across Derek, my script, and then I had not purchased the Malibu yet, my Concho, and I was thinking about getting a square body. And so I was mowing around. This is the funniest stuff, man. I was mowing around on YouTube, typing the search bar, square body stuff. And lo and behold, there's a channel called Square Body Stuff. I was like, of course there is. So I start watching this stuff, and he's a very how-to. He's like, this is how I do things. May not be the way everybody else does things. This is how I do things. And so I started watching it, and I ended up buying the Malibu. And I was thinking about maybe building a 305 just for fun, because they had one in it. Why not, right? And it just so happened that I look up 305 builds, and this guy here had started doing a 305 build. So I started following that, and next thing you know, we start communicating, and now we're best of buds. Heart.
Yeah.
And I'll like I'm a square body guy too, okay? I own 2 of them. One that runs excellently on 7 of its 8 big block cylinders. And the other one that is a 6.2 liter diesel, and a bunch of people want me to get the 6.2 running, and I'm like, no. I had a guy last week that sent me a message and said, dude, that's a great engine. You should totally, keep it and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. No, but it is yours. If you want it, when I yank it out, you can come get it. Like, come pick it up, dude. There is no reason to have that sucker. So, but Chad, I want to back up one little bit.
Yeah.
So, what's the dog's name? Your dog that was just in the background walking around, and what is he?
This is Big Tech.
Big Tex.
Yeah, Big Tech.
Is he a Mastiff?
Yeah, he's the English Mastiff. He's 9 months old.
And he weighs, what, 125 pounds?
At least. I mean, he's
a big boy.
He's just a big puppy.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
He's a good
Dogs
dog.
are the best. We all agree on that. Ryan is a Great Dane owner, 2 of those horses. Yeah. And then mine, Otis, is the small one out of all of our dogs. And he's still a big boy. And everybody always asks about the dogs. The dogs are the best. I'll tell you, like, it's funny, but a lot of the guys that I follow on YouTube, their shop dog, they have hanging out all the time. It's like, if I don't see the dog in a video, I'm like, what's wrong with the dog? Why wasn't the dog in the video? Like, is he all right? Brent at Half-Ass Customs, he's got Pablo and Buddy. And I say Pablo, like the most Canadian guy ever. It's Pablo, but they're Canadian, so it's Pablo, and so, Pablo is a big mooching machine. So, it's awesome. I love watching all those guys. But we're talking about that. Like, so if you guys had to, pick, like right now, no pressure, your top 4 YouTube channels that you guys like to watch for yourself. Like, maybe they're not even car related. Like, what are they? Ryan, go.
Clapped Out, Vice Grip, Finnegan.
Yep.
And Chad's channel. I always watch what he puts out. Oh, Duddy's Adventure.
And Duddy's in there. Yeah, honourable mention because he's a moped.
I love Duddy. I
know. I love Duddy too. We should have got him on today. You should tell him to, dude, send him the link.
He has a harder time than I do getting the internet particles to line up. And
I know, because he lives in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
they're powered by Cummins, so of course they're not going to work.
I'm powered by 305 stuff. So
I know. Jesus Christ. So okay, so Chad, if you had to pick 4 just quick off the cuff?
4.
Yeah.
Well, my number 1 is Cletus McFarland.
Yep.
Always been a huge inspiration to me.
Yep.
And probably Finnegan's Garage. Man, that's really the only 2 I can remember. I actually just keep up with, and I hate to say that because I have a lot of YouTube friends.
Right.
Oh yeah, Ugly Truck Experience. You guys.
Yeah. Uh huh.
Yeah. Well,
he's in.
I think. Yeah. But I don't have much time to watch YouTube anymore. So.
Right.
As far as like actually just keeping up with them, it's pretty much those 2.
If you guys in the chat have your 3 or 4 that you are like must watch, put them in the chat for sure, or in the comments, and I'll see them. So for me, Newburn and Cotton and Finnegan are all good friends of mine. So like those go without saying, but I have to say that Brent at Half-Ass Customs, so Half-Ass Customs, if you have not seen that channel, it's epic. He's from Canada. That dude is rad. Carl Fisher over at Make It Custom is amazing. Younger guy out of Canada also. Carl is a metal shaping machine. I'm really fortunate, and I know a lot of really cool people that lots of folks wish they knew. So I'm spoiled, right? I mean, I know a lot of great people that are famous and all those things, and they're just my dudes, and they're awesome. I'm not a fanboy type of person, but I was at Sosa Metalworks for their open house during the SEMA show, and it was also the Hemmings, big SEMA party that was there, and it was amazing. The place was so cool and like really set up with all kinds of cool lowrider art and all this neat stuff. And went in there, and I knew that Carl would be there because he does a bunch of stuff with Sosa. They do metal shaping classes there, and I got to tell you, I was fanboying hardcore. Like, I got to find Carl. And the only good thing about it was when I found Carl, I was wearing a shirt that has my name on it and Bang Shift. And I go, Carl, dude, I don't mean to sound like a fanboy, but I had to come, introduce myself. We run all your videos on the site. And as soon as I get it out of my mouth, like he's, now taking it all in, he goes, dude, Chad, oh my God, thank you. And, and all that. And so we were fanboying on each other. It was great. And it was awesome. But those two are two of my favorites. Like I said, Finnegan and Newbern and all those guys as well. So yeah, there's a lot of great content out there all the time now.
Yeah.
I know.
And I really love all the fabrication stuff. That's really my big deal. So yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to change my 3 or 4 now because I forgot about I watch Old Man, I watch SRC, I watch.
Right.
I don't watch TV anymore. I just watch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stuff.
I guess to add to my 2 that I put up was the other one is Steve Moore's. I really watch his because he likes to educate.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thing. Is I like to have fun and show all that stuff, but I just want to educate people, pass on what I know. Whether it's right or wrong, or popular, I just try to pass it on. And I think the other one is the bald guy from Motor Trend.
Oh,
yeah.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name. I know who you're talking about. I can see his face.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah. Oh, another one that's really good that isn't automotive but is vehicles, sort of, is Cutting Edge Engineering, which is a dude out of Australia, and he's actually a drifting guy. And but that's not what his content is. He is a machine shop that rebuilds parts for like heavy equipment. And this dude is unreal. Like, his welding is off the charts. His machining stuff, like, I feel like I've learned I could machine the world, watching that guy, which is great. Home Built by Jeff. Aaron Sockwell brings him up. That's a good channel. Wickman is saying McGann. That's who it is. John McGann is who you're thinking of. McGann, that's the bald guy. Richard Holdner.
No, it's not McGann.
Oh.
Richard Holdner.
Oh, yeah. Richie. Yeah. So Richie...
Holdner,
Richie, I don't put him on my list because I run all of his videos on the site. But Richard and I have been friends for a long time, and that dude is an epic human being.
We called him like midnight when we were working on Honcho before.
Yeah, that's right.
We were like, hey, bro.
Yeah, I wanted to verify. What was it? Headbolt torque. Yeah, that's right. I wanted to verify that I was right.
And I know room at like 12:30.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Yep, yeah. He was testing something, a big block Ford or some damn thing on the dyno at West Tech. So
guy from my perspective, that just blows my mind. That I'm just gonna call it Richard Holdner, ask him what torque, how to torque these heads, and just it blows my mind.
Richie is like, he is a spectacular human being. Like, he is genuinely one of the best people, and I could tell you, like, the number of things that we've done, like the video projects he and I have done together, the amount of testing I've done with him, the amount of cam swaps I've done with him on LSs is insane. And all of that stuff, like, I'm so fortunate. I have to give serious credit to Steve Brule and Rick Stoner and all the guys at West Tech, because I met those guys in 2007 when I was working with Freiberger, and that's how I got to know them. Dude, the amount of things that I have learned from especially Brulio, like, Steve Brule is a fucking genius. He is the carb whisperer, we call him. He is the god of big block Chevrolets, and he is another one of those guys that is just a spectacular human being.
Yeah, He's one of my, and like you said, I'm not a fanboy type of guy either.
Right.
But Steve Brule is like one of my all-time top idols because, doing what they do is a dream of mine.
Yeah.
Just if I always said if I won the lottery or came into a bunch of money, I would have my own dyno.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah.
Because I could spend my days just building engines, putting them on a dyno, testing stuff. I don't care if they ever go in anything.
Yeah.
I just like playing with the engines.
Oh, dude, if you end up out in California at some point, I will make sure that if I'm there, I'll take you down there. And if not, I'll make sure you get to go in. I was really fortunate because not only, did I get into the media side of the industry, so I was working with them on, from that perspective, but I also only lived like 15 or 20 minutes from West Tech. And so like there were days where I was wound up and like annoyed or whatever. And Daphne would go to the dyno shop. And I mean, I was at the dyno shop multiple times a week and I would just walk in the door and go, hey, what are we testing? And I would help or whatever. And, they were so good to me and did so much stuff for me over the years. I mean, I'm talking like midnight dyno, sessions and literally 2:00 in the morning on the chassis dyno to test things for a TV show or whatever. And just helping me work on stuff and giving me parts when I couldn't get something in time. And like, here's a part, replace it and it's yours. And, that kind of stuff, like amazing. And the technical help from, all of those guys, like I could never repay that. And so, I mean, I would go down and like, we'd be, they're running some, race drag boat motor, on the dyno. And it's, you can always tell when you walk into the dyno cell, you know what the engine is going into, based on what it looks like. So, if it's like, brushed aluminum valve covers, big block Chevrolet with a tunnel ram or a single dominator or whatever, and it's got brushed valve covers and, and just clean black AN and this stuff, it's a drag race deal. Same big block Chevrolet, but the tunnel ram is all polished, the carburetors are polished, the valve covers are polished, everything that could be chrome is chrome, boat guy. And if you say really similar to the boat guy, but with like, a little bit more bling as far as brand names on things, like making sure the valve covers say a racing, engine builder's name, that's a big money bracket race guy. So yeah, I mean, and you could walk in and see it. It was hilarious. And at the end of the day, we'd be, dynoing something and pull it off to load it in somebody's truck. And after helping load it, I go back in and grab the mop bucket and, clean the cell. Brulio's real big on making sure the dyno cell is clean and ready when you leave so that the next day it's ready to go and you don't got to do cleanup. And it's awesome. And like you said, dude, if I had, if I won one of the giant lotteries, like the, big $700 million Powerball right now, I would 100% buy an engine dyno and all that. Actually, if I won something like that, I would build a house on my property and a building that was just for the dyno operation and tell Brulio, it's yours.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you do with it. I don't care how much money you make off of it or don't. And otherwise, you just keep building engines and I'll keep paying for them and you retire and have a great time because, like, that would be the dream, So
I want to tell David real quick. Hey, David asked if Jake was my kiddo. Yeah, he is, and I appreciate you supporting his channel. He has been slow on getting content out, and that's his old man's fault. We just kind of took the month off, but we got some big stuff coming. We were supposed to have his motor before Christmas, but we had a little hang up with some cam bearings. So content coming soon. Hot rodding with Jake.
Dude, Jake's a great kid. It's fun. I like hanging out with him. We have me and Ryan and Jake have done some road trips to some big shows. And dude, we have carted that kid around for 1 million acres of mini trucks and custom trucks, and it was not good because by the time we left, he was like, okay, so when my S10 is done, I want a square body and I want it laying on its balls. And I'm like this, and I'm like, yes. And Ryan's like, you know, oh yeah.
Jake is one of the most down guys I know, and I'm glad I get to call him my son.
Oh yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, it's very, very cool. Okay. So off topic of what we're talking about, but a great statement. Luis Araya says front ends must be mandatory for racing in any class. Amen, brother.
Thank you.
All of these driving sons of bitches in the no prep world, and I'm not saying all no prep guys are no driving sons of bitches. I'm saying the no driving sons of bitches that happen to be racing in the no prep world and have wadded their shit up so much they just don't put front ends on them. You guys all suck. By the way, a foot of up travel is not necessary at all. Front end geometry is a magical thing.
I'm glad to hear someone say that knows something, because I don't get it. I'm not a drag racer. I'm from a whole different world, but still, I've done off-roading. I've done rock crawling. I've built suspensions. I've dabbled in a little bit of everything, but that whole long travel thing, it still hasn't made sense to me.
I love the long travel stuff, but make it look like a car, for Christ's sake. I mean,
well, but here's one of the problems. So there's a bunch of guys that, let's just use the example of a 70 Nova, right? So you'll get a guy that's out there with a 70 Nova, and he cuts the factory shock tower or shock mounts out, does these big, tall shock mounts in it, so that he can run a big long coilover, and get the travel he wants, so that he can get an extra 3 inches, let's say, of travel. And he's like, oh yeah, now I've got 9 inches of travel or whatever. Well, you know what? If you had just set it up right in the first place, you would have already got that. So here's the thing. A normal car going down a normal road, not a daily driver, but something like this, right? A drag and drive car, whatever. You can get away with as little as 1 inch of compression travel, okay? So if you set it up correctly to where at ride height, the shock is collapsed all but an inch, right? Then you've got all that travel, okay? You've got, with the motion ratio that you have in a Nova like that, or a second-gen Camaro or a first-gen Camaro or what have you. Dude, you're gonna get, by the time you get out to the wheel, you're gonna get 7, 8, 9 inches of travel. Like, it's just not, the thing that would surprise these guys is that most of the shock and, suspension parts companies that have existed forever and have been doing this, they all shake their heads and go, why do you guys work this hard at this and cut all this stuff up when you don't need to? And I would say that all you need as proof is the fact that every stock eliminator, okay, there you go, Ryan's got beer now. Every stock eliminator 69 Camaro on the planet has got 7 or 8 inches of travel of droop up front all the time. I mean, maybe more than that. It's just not that hard. So yeah, a lot of these guys go the wrong way for no reason. I mean, whatever.
My question was, when I first seen it, it was like a big thing. It's happening. Everybody's wanting to do it. My question was, and the reason I had the question is because I don't keep up with it enough to know for sure. But my question was, is it making them that much faster?
Right.
Or is it for looks or for bragging rights or just measuring things? If you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
I've got more travel than you got. I mean,
yeah.
Well, so I can kind of answer that question because Dave swapped to long travel suspension in the front of the Grouch. And
right.
So from what I understand, now he may be better to explain this, but his car picked up on a real crappy surface, right? The car will picked up almost 3/10 just by changing to the long travel suspension. And it's just because getting the weight in a Mustang, the motor could stand to come back a little bit, and a lot of the stuff that he races in is stock firewall stuff. Some of these other guys are in classes where you don't have to have a stock firewall; it's all about tire, right? So when you've got an engine in stock location, obviously you want the weight to get on the tire as fast and as quick as possible, and you want it to stay on the tire so you can start applying power. And for his car, it worked very well. It allowed that weight to transfer back, and it wasn't, a lot of times in racing, if the car is extending in the front, you're losing ET, right?
Right.
You want it to stay as planted as you can in all four corners. But in the outlaw style world, the street style world, ET is important, but it's not like the most important thing, because you're gonna run one ET on one surface, you're gonna switch to another surface, and it's gonna go out the window. So it's all about getting the car to do what you want it to do, and then when you feel it in the seat, you hit the override button and start throwing power at it. So his long travel stuff worked out for him. Now you see some of these guys with the weight bar hanging off the back. Like Beaterbaum did it first, and I'm all about innovation. But the thing I saw, and this just kind of goes to the most recent race they had, the War in the Woods, I think it was.
Yep.
You had Ryan Mitchell flip over backwards. You had a couple of cars stand on the back bumper, and what you got, what I see going on here, and this is just my perspective. Again, I'm not a no prep racer. I've just been around street racing a majority of my life, and you're starting to see people get really radical with ballast. And there was one car in particular, a lot of people saying, "Oh, the wing blew him over." It wasn't the wing; it was that he had a lot of ballast in the back of the car, and he pedaled the car 4 times. Well, if you're pedaling a car at 100 miles an hour that makes 2,800 horsepower, it's eventually going to bite. When it bites, it's going to transfer, and you don't want it to transfer at 600 feet at 100 miles an hour, because the wind's going to get underneath it, and you're going around.
Exactly.
I wouldn't know anything about that, so.
Yeah, it was I know. It was a driving error on his part. It wasn't the wing, and you see some of. There was another guy there, for instance, had an RX-7, like a first-gen RX-7, stood the car on the bumper immediately. Right. Well, he had so much ballast in the car, when it went into the right lane, he set the car down and tried to move it back to the other lane, and the back end, like it swayed way over, and it got on the edge of the tire, and then swayed way back. And you're like, dude. You're in a short wheelbase car, and you've got probably, if I had to guess, you have 200, 300 pounds of ballast in the back of that car. Well, you're going to make that car so unstable. It's not funny when it's over the tire.
Right.
And, so I don't know. Like, some of the guys are getting a lot of control, and that's where it goes to sometimes things, we hit a wall. These guys are trying to put, Ryan Mitchell, dude, that Firebird has got, isn't that his name? Ryan Mitchell, I can't remember his last, or whatever, the Firebird guy, he has like 2,800 horsepower in that car, 3,000 horsepower, something like that. It's got a big pro charge. And come on, dude, we're on the street. You're on a bare surface. You're on asphalt. Like, how do you think it's going to work out for you? It's going to be tough.
Right.
And to have that kind of power and have to manage it down to make it go down a crappy road, I don't know. There's 2 different ways of thinking about it. Not have enough power, or have too much, and figure out how to utilize what you can out of it.
Right. Well, I grew up as a stock eliminator racer, and which is the original small tire, right? So, stock eliminator back in the day ran. Way back in the day. This is a stock eliminator car. So this car back in the day, like when my dad first started driving, in the late 60s, they were on a 7-inch wide slick. And it didn't matter what it said on the sidewall, it had to be measured at 7 inches. So they literally would put them up in the air between rounds, because the tires would mushroom on the bottom and the tread would get too wide. They'd put them up in the air and hold a file or a rasp against the side of the tread to shave them down to make sure they were at 7 inches, because otherwise they were illegal. So later on, I guess it was probably 1972 or something like that, they went to a 930/15, which is a 30 by 9 tire. Okay. So 30 inches tall, 9 inches wide, that's the maximum you can have, and it's what's on the sidewall, right? So this car here is I'd have to look. It's a B stock automatic car, so this is a big block car. But this is it's got a 28-inch tall front tire on it. Okay, which is how God intended a '69 Camaro to look, by the way. A 26 is the shortest you should put on one, but that's my opinion. Anyway, so that tire right there has 6 inches of sidewall. Okay, so it's a 15-inch wheel, which actually measures 16 inches on the face. It's a 28-inch tall tire, so maths is hard. That's 6 inches of sidewall, okay, top and bottom. So you look at that thing, half of that sidewall is tucked up into the fender of that car right now, right? Well, so then if you look at this car, then same exact setup. Look, this car has a 26-inch tall tire on the front instead, but look, there's at least 6 inches, okay, between the fender and the top of that tire, okay? So that means this thing has a minimum of 10 inches of travel at the wheel up front already. And there's nothing on this thing that is not stock. So it's got, it'll have Moroso trick springs and it'll have adjustable shocks on it, but the control arms are all factory, all that stuff, factory spring locations, all those things. You can't, modify any of that. Right. But with the motion ratio that you get on a, one of these, that's what it, works out to. And these cars, like this one's got a wheelie bar on them. There are some that do what they started allowing them when, that B stock automatic car, that first one, okay, this car probably runs 980s or 990s in the quarter with a factory Holley carburetor, factory intake manifold, iron heads, a camshaft that can only have the stock lift. It can have any duration and overlap, any valve timing at once, but the lift has to be the factory lift, which is, on this thing, it's probably a 350 horse, 396 combo, maybe a 375, but it's going to be
wink.
Maximum. Well, yeah, they make way more than that, but it's maximum 550 lift, let's say, that's probably in this car. So, they do some trick stuff. I mean, they launched the lifter off of the ramp of the camshaft through the air and landed on the other side like a ski jump, But, dude, stock Eliminator cars are badass. They are the original small tire cars. Everything that exists today started because of this car, of these cars to make small tire cars work. John Calvert invented the Caltrax bar for stock Eliminator leaf spring cars, in particular his 67 or 8 stick shift Mustang called It's Automatic, but it's a stick car. It was a 390 4-speed car, if I remember right. Stood on the bumper forever. Badass stuff. So, these
I think
come on.
You look at the old stuff, the way we used to do small tire stuff, like on the street and things of that nature, and we used to make them work. But the problem is that people just going after the power, and I get it. We're all more power. Of course. Somebody said up there that car had like 400 pounds of ballast in the back. That's about what I thought I had, and you can kind of tell by the way it was leaving and the way it set down and got wiggly. And 400 pounds of ballast, man, you were messing with. Like when we ran the S10, we had about 100 pounds we'd put over the rear end. Now we first mounted it on the tailgate, and then we ended up mounting it on over the rear end. Yeah, chassis, and 100 pounds. That it makes a huge difference. But 400 pounds in a car that probably weighs, let's face it, what a first gen RX-7 is probably maybe 2,000 pounds. If it's got a turbo LS, probably let's call it 2,500 with driver. 400 pounds of ballast hanging over the back of the rear axle. That's just a recipe for disaster.
Well, when, right before they made the rule that you couldn't have weight outside of the car, right? Yeah. It had to be in the car. Well, part of that is because Biggin they're not the only ones. I'm not saying that, but Biggin took beer money into the shop, cut 2, slits in the roof, and put 2 tabs down to the roll cage sticking up to hang a dumbbell bar on the top of the car. And then same deal on on the Moonshine Missile on the Fairmont wagon, LTD, but still did the same thing on that. And then they changed the rules. So then he just moved it inside because in the wagon, you still got all that roof there. So it's still in almost the same spot. In fact, it's higher up than it would be in Beer Money. And it'll work, but you don't really need it. I mean, no. I know why, I get all the math, but there's better ways to do it, I think.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean,
there's more fun ways where you don't look like a weirdo.
Yeah, there's more than one way to skin a cat. It's like going back to like Chad's 305 here, right? So the 339, right?
Which is crazy.
We gotta dive into this one for a minute. So you're talking about he likes Steve Morris, right?
Right.
And I have to say, not just because I know him, but if you watch the in-depth videos of him putting this 305 together, it'll blow your freaking mind. You're talking about this guy who has a day job. He has a shop that he works at behind his house, and he spent so much time on this engine making it efficient.
Right.
It is probably the most efficient little conventional small block that I've seen put together in a long time. And what, Chad, what were the numbers? Give us the numbers. What did it put down to the wheels? It was on a chassis dyno.
It's on a hub dyno. I don't remember the torque, but we tried to get 1 horsepower per cubic inch to the wheels, and we just barely missed it. Now we got 332 to the hubs. And
now and tell everybody, okay, so it started out as a 305. Now it's 339. Well, that means you had to put a stroker crank in it because you can't get there by boring alone. So tell us what the combo is inside it.
Okay. It's a 60 over 305 block. What is it? 201 casting, just a standard 85 305 block.
Yeah.
I got a good deal. Actually got it gave to me. An old school Cola crank.
No way.
Yeah. Cola is, and I had to research it.
That's a big name crankshaft back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
I think they went out of business in like 2007. But anyhow.
Yes. Right. They went out of business when the whole market crash went down and everybody was out of money. But that isn't like, oh, it's an old school brand, so it must be good. Like today, that's still a great crankshaft. And there are lots of guys with Cola crankshafts making really big power because they were really nice pieces. So,
I lucked into that one, and it's a 383 crank, which I say 383 because it's not a 400 crank. It is
right.
It was manufactured with the medium journal for 350 block.
Yeah.
So
with
it
a
is
375 stroke. Yeah.
375 stroke. So
because a 400 crank, guys used to take a stock 400 crank and machine the mains down because a 400 small block has a big main journal compared to a 350 or a 305 or any of those.
Yeah.
Not to be mistaken for like a 283 or a 327 where they would have had a small journal. Those were early 327s and 283s that had a smaller journal than a 350 journal. Those were all forged crankshafts and a great deal. But in order to use one of those in yours, you'd have to use a bearing spacer and all that. And obviously, it wouldn't have enough stroke. So you went a 375 stroke in a 305 block that was 60 over, and it gives you 339.
Yeah. So starting with that, it was just going to be a bare basic because I didn't want to dump a bunch of money into a 305 because it doesn't make sense.
Agreed. Yeah.
Everybody agrees. And I'm a big block guy. Let's get this out there. I'm a big block guy. I have been, the 305 life chose me. I didn't choose it. But anyways, I'm running with it because it's actually helped a lot of people out. But initially, it was just going to be a bare basic, stroker 305 build. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to be hitting it with nitrous, let's put some money into this, put some thought into this to make a foundation to handle a lot of horsepower.
Right.
So I got splayed main caps, forged splayed main caps or billet splayed main caps. It's got a half-filled block. I put the block fill in the block. So, and it's got chromoly rods. Now, on the rods, a lot of the new parts I got were through Speedmaster.
Yeah.
And everybody knows Speedmaster is kind of the budget end of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's a reason for that. I mean, I don't have a bunch of money to spend on this. But
right. Nothing to be ashamed of that, dude.
Yeah.
We're all broke dicks. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to show people you could build something with a budget and have fun with it, and actually build something worth having. So it's got chromoly I-beam rods that should handle upwards to 1,000 horsepower. DSS Racing, I got a hold of them because that was my main hang-up when I was envisioning this build or planning this build. Where am I going to find forged pistons for a 339 with 6-inch rods that's going to handle a power adder, whether it's nitrous, boost, whatever? I thought, where am I going to find that? And I ran across DSS Racing up in, I think, Illinois, and I got a hold of them, called them up, said, hey, this is what I've got. Because I looked on their website. They had what I wanted.
And is that because they do them for circle track applications? Is that what their big market is?
I don't think that's a circle track application. These are
okay.
They're actually a power adder. The pistons I got, the rings, I can't remember the actual marketing words for them or names for it, but it is a power adder piston. It's got and the rings are power adder rings.
Yeah.
I've got more in those pistons and rings than what I normally put into a regular build.
Right.
So, but they're going to be able to handle. They said they've had guys put 1,200 horsepower.
Yeah.
With that style of piston. Maybe not have a 305 application.
Right.
But anyhow,
right.
I wanted to build a solid foundation to be able to handle whatever I wanted to put to it. The heads are Speedmaster. I think they were 190cc heads. I've done a little port work to them that come out to like 208cc, 202 160 valves. Well, on the internet, if you search the internet, you can't put 202 160 valves on a 305.
Now, here's the reason why for the people that are watching at home.
Yeah.
So you said it was 60 over. So a 60 over 305 has a bore of 3.766. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, 3.766. For those that don't know, a 350 is a 4-inch bore. Okay. It was a 4-inch bore and a 3.48-inch stroke. A 305 is the same 348 stroke, but it was only a 3.736 bore. Jeff Smith, who is a awesome guy. I've known Jeff for years, who is an icon in the old magazine world, engine builder extraordinaire. When Carcraft did a story on the 305, he says this, at least once every couple of years, we review the Stroker 305 combo. He says the Stroker 305 is popular because the 305 is probably the most easily accessible small block Chevy engine on the planet. This is back in the day. He goes, as mentioned, or as you mentioned, meaning the guy that was writing this story, you bought this motor for almost nothing, and that's the lure of it. He says the 305 uses a tiny 3.736 bore and the same 3.4-inch stroke as the 350. While it's relatively easy to drop a 375 stroke crank in it, which is what the 400 crank stroke is, to create a 30 over stroker that displaces 334 inches, it is just not a great performance decision for several reasons.
It is a very bad financial decision too.
Correct. Because the reason is that the things that you've spent money on, Cale Mortimer, yes, I know. The things that you spent money on, you know, realistically, if you'd have found a 350 for a few $100s, you absolutely could have built that cheaper or the same money and add much more power, right?
So in my case, I've got 3 or 4 350 cores laying around.
Yeah. Right.
blocks. But that wasn't my point. I've also, if I would have dropped,
and that's one thing I want you to make sure that people understand that are watching at home.
Yeah.
No, this isn't the smart way to go. Chad's not an idiot. He understands that. He did this for the content and for the message, for it to be inspiring to people to do whatever they're going to build. Even something as stupid, quote unquote, as a 305, if you do it methodically and detail-oriented and all that, it will pay dividends. And in this case, by making 1 horsepower per cube in a really simple little bitty combo.
And you think about it this way. This is
at the hubs.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the thing. That little 339 is not only turning an SM465, a 2-piece drive shaft, but it's also turning a 14-bolt rear end.
Yeah, which is also probably the trans is actually pretty good as far as power going through it, but the drive shaft and the rear end probably are another 35 to 50. I could look that up and give you real numbers on that, because Jeff Smith did a chassis dyno test at West Tech, where they put at West Tech, if you've been there, in front of the chassis dyno, when your car's on the chassis dyno, there's a lift in front of you about a car length away. So I think they did it in Jeff's Chevelle, but it could have been El Camino. I can't remember which one of his cars. But anyway, they ran it with the 12 bolt. They took the 12 bolt out, put a 9-inch in it, took the 9-inch out, and put a Dana 60 in it. They tested all the rear ends in it with the exact same gear ratio, same wheel and tire, all those things, and literally pulled it forward, swapped the rear end, set it back on the ground, backed it up, put it on the chassis dyno to show the actual numbers that. And the 9-inch Ford, by the way, is the worst one. Like, even a Dana 60 is better, but the Dana weighs so much. But a 9-inch is horribly inefficient. The pinion is too low. It rides on the wrong side of the gear. Like, super strong. Don't get me wrong. I have one, but it's not the most efficient.
And they've also got the extra. Yeah. They've actually got the bearing on both ends of the pinion. Same thing with the 14 bolt.
Right. Which is why it's stronger. Yeah. That's why it's stronger, but it has to, because where it's riding on the gear, it's trying to shove it out of the damn case the whole time. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's,
dude.
You know, that's
okay, but back to the valves. How the hell did you put 202 160s in a wee little bitty bore like that?
Okay, well, it's being 60 over. Of course, that block. Luckily, I had 60 over pistons because the block wasn't cleaned up at 40. It was worn out. So,
was there a part of you going, 60 means these cylinders are getting a little thin?
Oh, not on the 305. 305s have a really heavy casting.
Do they?
That's
okay, well, there you go.
Yeah, see, that's another thing about 305s that is a great thing, because a lot of guys in demolition derbies or applications where they're going to beat on them, they love 305s because their cylinder walls are so thick.
Right.
You can. I've talked to guys. I've actually had experience with 305s for that application and off-roading and stuff, because if you get them hot, I've literally seen them seize up and stop. You let them cool off a little bit, they'll fire right back up and run like a top.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're Ryan Wing, and then
yeah. I mean, then he drags them up. Yeah, then he drags it up to me, and now it's my problem. But,
yeah, you know, because hate to tell you, he's that kind of friend.
Oh, I know. I love him.
I got you.
So with the 202 160 valves, now they would physically, with the 60 overbore, they will physically clear the cylinder walls.
Right.
But you have a lot of, I mean, you got a ledge on your cylinder deck on your block and your valves. So what I did is I took a piece of, actually it was a carburetor kit plastic, the clear plastic lid, and put the holes in it, mounted it to my cylinder heads, cut it out to exact shape of my cylinder head combustion chamber here, and then transferred it to the block, and then beveled the top of the block. Had to measure so far down so it didn't get into the ring land.
Yep.
And chamfered, and a lot of that's a big block thing.
Yeah, I was going to say that is a normal deal in a big block. Even on a 350, if you're putting a big head, like that's not uncommon. So it's not. Yeah. It sounds weird, but it's really not a big scary thing. You know,
it's not. It's a normal thing. If you ever built big blocks, and you know what you're doing, you're going to be able to block. So, and that's what I did with this. It perfectly matches the cylinder or the combustion chamber, so everything flows together. Yeah. How much horsepower is that worth? I don't know.
Right.
But it's the little things. And with the
what's the compression ratio?
It is about 9.3.
Okay.
Static. The dynamic come out to be like 7.5.
Right.
So it's a perfectly great street engine. That's what I was going for. I've got enough cylinder head and everything else to put a bigger camshaft in it, and I've also got a really wide LSA. It's at a 114, but it's good for a power adder.
Right.
So it's what's the camshaft spec? It's a 234, 244 at 50 duration.
So that's a mild cam like mild for a performance cam in a 383 stroker, but in a 339, that's a pretty. I mean, it's not crazy or anything, but that's still crazy. A lot more camshaft when you think you have to think of duration by cubic inches as well, right? Yeah. So a 234, 244 on 100 cubic inches would be insane compared to that on a 500-inch motor and sound like a rental car, you know?
Yeah. So with that and the wide lobe separation angle, and I advanced the cam, it was ground with the 5 degrees advance. I degreed it 2 more degrees, so 7 degrees advance.
Yeah.
To help with the cranking compression and all that stuff, and the exhaust, get the exhaust vent happening sooner.
Right.
For the power adder thing. So it turned out to be a really, not mild, a nice hot street motor.
Right.
And I was hoping for roughly 400 horse at the crank, and a lot of guys said, yeah, that's a good recipe for that. And then the other guy's like, yeah, you're crazy. You're never going to get that out of that small bore. So
yeah, but you did, because that 100%, that's what it kills out of the transmission.
Yeah.
You're right there. You're between 390 and 400 horsepower at the crank. No question.
I want that small bore thing still gets me. It's because if you compare this, we're just talking bore and stroke.
Yeah.
Compare this 339 bore and stroke to a 5.3 LS.
Right.
The best engine in the world to some people.
Yeah.
It is actually a little bit bigger bore and a little bit longer stroke.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The bore is not what hurts this thing. It's the cylinder head.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've very politely shut some guys up or educated them. Hopefully it's educating.
Right.
That's not the problem with this application or this build. It's the cylinder head.
Right.
If I could put it
23 degree. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, because a 5.3 LS is 325 cubic inches, and it's 378 bore, 3.62 stroke.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're little also, like you said, but the cylinder head, the valve is tilted up at a better angle and all that, which makes a huge all of the part below the cylinder heads in an engine is really not the important part. I mean, it all has to be there, but a crank spinning is a crank spinning. The rods, going up and down, or the rods going up and down.
Well,
the pistons are the pistons. Cylinder heads make power. Yes.
Yeah.
Everything, cylinder heads and a camshaft are what determine how your power is going to be, where it's going to be. If you don't understand like RPM range and all that, go watch Richard Holdner's videos. You will see that if you take 2 different camshafts with everything else being the same, you will see that the identical curve just moves up in RPM range or down based on, valve timing, meaning duration. So,
So when I had this thing on the hub dyno, we were watching the graphs. And Clayton Lamb, the guy that runs the hub dyno, that dude is awesome because he would rather have this truck on his sub dyno than a $2,500 or 2,500 horsepower Beaumont.
Right.
He loves this thing, and he's just sitting there looking at the graph. He's like, "Holy crap!" He said, "Look at this."
Yeah.
And that's when I was looking at the graph and the horsepower curve, the torque curve. That's when I thought, I did it. This is exactly what I want to do, because it's not the peak. I mean, the peak is okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It peaked at like 6,000, which is good for the mild build.
Right.
For a good street motor. But it was flatter, and it carried. And after, because I ran every pull up went to like 7,200.
Right.
Even though it peaked at 6,000, with this transmission, with the gear split between second, I start out in second, had to shift to third. Yeah. I dropped 3,500 RPM in that shift. Yeah.
Holy shit.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So
that sucks. Can we put a real transmission in this thing, please? I mean, after I whoop your ass at the tailgate throwdown, by the way.
Nah.
I mean, but yes. I mean, you know.
Well, I want to get hold of gear vendors. That'll help out this situation. But
oh yeah.
But anyways, I explained to Clayton. I said I want to over rev this thing to see what it's doing after it peaked.
Yeah.
If it peaked,
you want to see how hard it falls off. Yeah.
And it peaked. It just kind of
carried out.
Slowly tapered off. And I said that's exactly what I wanted.
Because now you can shift it at 72, and you're not, and you're going to fall down to where you've still got a bunch of power.
Yes, I'm still falling down to where it's still making some torque and making some horsepower. And actually, it's as much of a big block guy as I am. And a few times I've drove this truck, this little small block is worlds ahead of that big block because of the RPM range.
Right.
And you can see it on the graph. The big block, the torque is way up here when it starts out, and then it slowly tapers off.
Right.
Well, where it starts tapering off, and what was cool is we overlaid the best 339 pull NA versus the best big block pull, which is a very mild big block, and they cross over like right at the crossover, 52, 50, whatever it is. But where the big block was dropping off, the small block was still making torque.
Right.
And horsepower, where the big block was falling off, and you could feel that in the truck.
Right.
With that big block, of course, I've got short gears in it. It's got 488.
Nice.
Not the right gears for a big block.
No, but it is the right gear for this.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason why I put those gears in. It's because I was planning on this, but the big block was a plan B. The big block needed like 373s or 410s. Mm-hmm. But with the way it's set up, just driving it, normally with that big block, when it hits 5,500 RPM, 6,000, and it's starting to nose over, but I still needed that extra RPM, it would do it. But it got there so quick, and just everything was over with before I got the shift. This thing, it pulls smoother, harder, and then once I get to the next gear, it keeps pulling past that RPM.
Yeah, it's sound. You can hear it in the video you put out where you took it out on the road and just kind of ripped it in front of the shop after you got off the hub dyno. You can hear you can hear the pause between the 2-3 shift because it's there, right? Yeah. But you could hear the engine. It was much happier once you engaged their gear.
Let me ask you this: do you race in the 8th mile or the quarter normally?
8th mile.
Okay, so you leave in second, which we're going to call first because first is no. Yeah. So you leave in second. You're pulling third gear, and then are you pulling fourth gear before the finish line in the 8th mile?
With the big block, I was. Okay. I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of room, but I still had to pull fourth in the 8th.
But this one you don't.
We don't know.
Well, yet. I don't know. I haven't had that.
That's right.
Yet.
You haven't raced it yet. Okay. So
our trucks are Texas.
Yeah, remind me, and I'll tell you a trick that you should potentially look into. if the thing, we'll talk later, but there's something you might want to do that could really, really, really change that whole 2-3 shift situation. So here's one thing, you're talking about gear. The stock Eliminator Camaros I showed earlier.
Yeah.
The one with the wheels in the air, that car probably has a 617 to a 7.0 gear in it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one of the ways that they make all these things fast is by, mechanical advantage, dude. Physics is your friend. Put a shit ton of gear in the thing, right? Because there is no power adder. There is no ability to do any of that, right? They're not making a ton of power down low, so you need all that. And don't forget, too, if you guys are watching at home, one of the things that some people may not understand, too, is like, NHRA in the, previous iteration of NHRA Pro Stock, not the new, fuel-injected combos, although they do have this too. There's a gear ratio limit, okay? And that's because they had a RPM limit, okay? They wanted to slow them down because we had 500-inch, Pro Stock big blocks that were, spinning 12,500, okay? And the reason for that was because, and the reason for that actually makes sense, right? So if you think about the power stroke, right, that's happening every time a cylinder, fires and is pushing down, all the rest of the things that are happening in the engine, okay, are not making power except the power stroke.
Yep.
So
everything else is taken out.
Right. So if you, regardless of how much horsepower you make, if you can increase the number of power strokes in a given amount of time or a given distance, right, on the drag strip, then that means you are putting more power to the ground, even if the horsepower number is the same. If it was 1,500 horsepower, if you can do 1,500 horsepower at 10 grand, will be quicker than 1,500 horsepower at 8 grand because you were putting power, that 1,500 horsepower to the ground more during that period of time. So that's what they would do is they just made them spin harder and harder and harder and harder and harder, which obviously means the price of everything goes unobtainium because then they're titanium, all of it, I mean, think about that, 500 cubic inches spinning that hard. Now, keep in mind, they're a short stroke. I mean, a 500-inch Pro Stock combo was a little bitty stroke and a giant bore so that they could have valves that you could put your arm in, But, it's crazy how different it is depending on what the combo is, right? If that was a turbo combo in your truck and an automatic, you could get away with a 370 or a 410 gear, no problem, and it wouldn't matter. But without it, you need that. I mean, obviously, you're going to give it the toot as well. So how much are you going to spray it?
Well, my current situation is my plate will support 250 shot. So that's all I've got. So we did a 150 shot on the dyno, and it made a true 150 horse. And that was one of the things that's, not everybody out there knows who I am. Ryan knows who I am. Ryan knows that I'm just a redneck that likes to play with my trucks.
Right.
And the nitrous thing, I've never messed with nitrous. I've played with it on this truck. But doing that, I wanted to do it the best way I knew how and learned about it. I researched it, done my homework, and, it's got a standalone fuel system. Everything is as right as I can get it to make that system is the best it could be.
Do you have a progressive setup on it, or is it going to be with a button? Or
it's progressive, and it's on a micro switch on the throttle.
Yep.
So when the first time I went to the dyno with the big block, and that was a whole different trip for me. But when we'd done the nitrous pull with the big block, Clayton said, we're going to find out how well your system is set up.
Right.
He said, because they've had all sorts of guys in there, guys that know everything, guys that's supposed to know everything, all that. He said, if your system, it depends on what your system makes. He said, if it makes close to 150, then your system is right. And every time the 2 times I pulled on their dyno with the small block and the big block, it's making right at 150 horse.
Perfect.
He told me, he said, you've got your system set up perfectly. He said, there's no holes in it. And that was really good for me, because it was confirmation that, I done my homework. I put together a good system. And because I showed all these people on YouTube what I was doing, and I don't like to show people the wrong way to do it.
Right.
So, it was confirmation for me that, my 150 shot makes 150 horse.
Yeah.
So my plans are, so with the 250 shots, that gets me to, at the wheels,
should be around
300, 250, 550.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the wheels.
What's the truck weigh?
She's a big girl.
Yeah, she's a big. She's heavy. Of course, that 4-speed, the rear end, all that stuff, and
dude, that transmission is stupid heavy. Yes.
So it's right around 4,000 pounds.
Oh well, shit, that's still light. I mean, to me, dude, I have a 66 wagon, weighs 4,600 pounds with my fat ass in it. So, I mean, it makes a lot more power than yours, but still, But $4,000 ain't bad. That's new Camaro and new Challenger weight. I mean, and those guys are nowhere near as cool as you are. I mean, they definitely don't get chicks. I mean, come on.
You got points.
Hold on. Before we miss this too, I want to say, Tom. So for those watching, Tom is awesome. Tom is from the UK, and he traveled to Rocky Mountain Race Week 2.0 just to watch. And then, went to several Dragon Drives just to watch, and then bought a car over here, broke it multiple times and fixed it to do Rocky Mountain Race Week and all that. And it's here in the United States, and he's coming back this year to do more events. The guy's awesome. So, very, very cool. But Tom's asking, what gear should he run for the quarter with a glide and a 750 horse 5.3 with about a 6,500 RPM redline? Tom, just shoot me an email, chat@bangshift.com, and I'll help you out with that. But it depends on what the converter is, what tire size you're running, if it's still going to have the turbo on it, or if this is NA now, etc. So send me a message, Tom. I'm happy to help, or get people that are smarter than me to help, for sure.
I know a guy.
New Unity Motorsports Garage says nitrous is good for the soul, and you are correct, my friend.
Indeed it is, Andy. Indeed it is.
I run nitrous on everything, even if it has another power adder. So, I'm not kidding. Like, I've had so many people think I'm joking about that. The ProCharge combo in Daphne's car had a plate under the throttle body. It will in the 56. The only time I don't run 2 power adders is when the rules say I can't. But otherwise, there's no reason not to have a plate and a full nitrous bottle, because let's say my ProCharge combo is hooked up and hauling ass at the 8th mile, and I hit high gear and that thing is just hauling the mail and it's hooked up and happy, then why not grab a button? I mean, it's, I mean, let's see what it'll do, so
options.
Yes, exactly. Options are key. Yes.
There may or may not be a Nitrous Express little kit on the old square body Chevy pickup.
I know. I'm beating everybody's ass. I'm telling you, Chad, you better bring your A game, big boy, because we're going to have some Chad on Chad square body crime going on, dude. Oh, yeah.
Chad on Chad. Nothing better than that.
I'm telling you.
And here's my mentality on like the tailgate throwdown or any competition. I have a small competitive streak. I just like to have fun.
Absolutely. Yes.
I would line this thing up with Cletus McFarland's mullet.
Right.
I don't care.
Oh,
I don't care
I
to
would
get
too.
beat.
100%.
I just like to have fun, and I show up. That's the biggest thing I want to tell people. Just do it. Just show up.
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if your stuff is slow. It doesn't matter if it's weird. It doesn't matter if it doesn't fit the status quo. Have fun with it. And that's the biggest thing that I've gotten from the 305 deal.
Yeah.
Is because I've had so many comments on so many different videos with the 305 that people are, a lot of them are along the lines of, man, I had this 305 Monte Carlo that my grandpa gave me, grandma gave me, or it's sentimental, and everybody's telling them throw the 305 away and get a 350 or put an LS in it. And they watch my videos, and their comments are, you've inspired me to keep the 305, put a little money into it, and have fun with it. And
why not?
That makes what I'm doing with the 305 thing worth it. And that's why I'm going to keep doing it. There's a part of me, it's like, tired of the 305 stuff. I don't want to be that guy, but I do want to be that guy.
But there's no reason not to do both, right? Keep it up with the 305, have that be your little pet project, and do a big block for your next thing. Like, that's all good.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Earlier, we talked about spending money, like dollar per horsepower.
Yeah.
Ryan knows. He's seen what I've got in store around here. I've got I've got 3 big blocks on that wall.
Yeah.
I've got 2 or 3 more out in the barn. So if I would have put the same amount of money I put into that 339 into a big block, I would have had probably double, triple the horsepower in A.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And so that's the main thing I try to get across to people. This build is not about changing the world or making a bunch of horsepower. It's about building something different, enjoying what we're doing, because that's hot rodding. Hot rodding is making do with what you got, or building something different, being yourself, and just go out there and have fun.
Yeah, it's about seeing a vision in your head, no matter what it is, and seeing it through, no matter what somebody has to say about it.
Try to build a 339 stroker out of 305 and build it strong enough that you could just, dump a bunch of nitrous down its throat and see what it can handle.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing. Like a friend of mine, hit me up a few months ago, and he was like, I'm going to take this 5.3 and take it to the engine builder of a friend of ours, and I'm going to do all this stuff. And, he said it's going to cost like, $5,000 and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, how much power are you trying to make? It's for a cruiser truck. And he goes, like 375 or 400. I'm like, then put a cam in it and call it a day.
Yeah.
Like a junkyard 5.3 with a cam makes that. Why are you even, what engine builder, what? Like, why would you do this? And a good
cam and a tune.
Yeah. Well, and then he makes a statement like, well, I want it to be reliable and all that. Yeah. Yeah. Again, why are you doing any of this stuff? Like, and you know what? Save your money that you would have spent, buy 2 more and have them sitting there. And when this one pukes, put another one in it. It'll never puke NA. Like, it's just never going to happen. And also, let's not forget people like, and this is one thing I tell guys all the time. Like, we just did the Christmas cruise, okay? There wasn't a single display of horsepower there. Not one launch, not one burnout, not one anything that made any difference whether the car had 300 horsepower or 3,000. Every single car there could have done the same thing in those conditions. So I tell people all the time, if what you want to do is cruise at a good guy show, go drive it around town, you want it to sound nasty and do big burnouts, then put a little bit more gear in it, put a camshaft in it that's too big, that actually costs you a little bit of power. So it sounds nasty and evil when it's up on the chip and nobody can tell if it's on the chip at $5,000 or $7,500.
Exactly.
Really. So set the chip at 55, do a big smoky burnout down the street, and if it makes 350 horsepower, everybody will swear it is the baddest thing ever. and it will make you smile. If you are not going to go racing, then who cares? Make it sound awesome in big burnouts, winning. You have won the hot rod game.
You gotta have the chop chop.
Yes.
You gotta have the chop chop.
Let me tell you something. I've been down the track a million times in my lifetime. And you know what you can't see when you're going down the track? The smile on anybody's faces. But when you're sitting there at a red light and a kid's looking out the window, licking it like a freaking cat, sees catnip, and then you light them up, that's where it's at.
Yep.
100%.
Where it's at.
Yeah. So it's like Chad was saying about the set the rev limiter low. No one knows. That's my trick when I'm doing the burnout competition. I put dually wheels on the back of this thing with the big block in it. I set the rev limiter at 5,000 RPM. I can hold that big block at 5,000 RPM all day long. It's not going to hurt it.
Nope.
And I just hold it and had shorty extensions on the headers, flames coming out, and it just put on a great show.
Absolutely.
And no one knew if I was at 5,000, 6,000, or 8,000 RPM. No one knew. It was just hitting the rev limiter, and a big block at 5,000 RPM, hitting the rev limiter, is a little different.
Right.
But it just put on a show. And that's
absolutely.
That's what most people, you know, from in my level, that's all they want. You know, my viewers, they just want to have the chop chop.
Yep.
They want to have drivability, and that's the other thing. This 339, it's capable of handling. I want to get at least a 400 or 500 shot to put on it. Was single or two stage.
Yeah.
And
I
will
built
totally
it to
handle
help you
that.
with that. Like, dude, I've done multiple kit stuff on street small blocks for the reason of doing it to show people how to do it.
Yeah.
So, dude, you let me know, and I'm happy to give you any advice I can.
Yeah.
Like, no question.
But as far as just putting together a combo that would run like this one, if you're not doing a power adder, I could have got away with like a third of the money and had just as much fun on the street.
Yep.
The way I'm normally going to be driving this, because it still makes enough vacuum, like 12 to 14 inches of vacuum.
Yeah.
For power brakes.
Yep.
It has perfect street manners. It has the chop, you know, and it will light the tires up. It will hold you back in the seat.
Yep.
And what I want to do is, and I told Ryan this a little bit ago or a couple days ago in a messenger, that I would like to go back and take his engine that he brought me, the 305 he brought me, which is the same casting number, same block,
right,
and redo the 305 that I originally was messing with. The same camshaft, same intake, same header, your same basic stuff. That's your basic recipe: cam, intake, and headers.
Yeah.
And put it back in squeaky temporarily, and put on the hub dyno.
Yeah.
See what kind of horsepower that combination makes. Nothing else special. Just your, I mean, just a couple $100 worth of stuff.
Right.
And
I love it.
And, you know, show people that, I mean, that's the thing is I could have, you know, I don't have to have the splayed main caps or the forged crank or the chromoly rods or any of that to make the horsepower it makes.
Right.
Right.
In A.
Right.
And, yeah, so there's so many things you can do with this platform.
Now,
I agree.
That's a really cool idea, but the coolest idea to do with the 305 is with that other 305 I brought you, because I brought you two.
I know.
And I got to put this back on the forefront of your mind.
So has he told you this idea, Chad?
Oh, I know. I'm not saying anything because I know it's a secret, but
it's not
if you don't do it, I will kill you. Yeah, I want nothing to do with you if you don't aggressively try and figure out how to do this.
Yeah, so
okay,
Chad is going to be building in the near future a twin 305 all-wheel drive burnout truck. It's going to be amazing.
That's Chad.
No, that Chad. Now, hey, is it going to be 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive?
It would have to be 4-wheel drive because, well,
it doesn't have to be, and I can tell you how, but yeah.
Well, I know. Here's the dumb idea that Ryan and I have come up with.
Great.
There are no dumb ideas, Chad.
Well, Well, apparently, I mean,
Fair. I'm not a great judge, so you know.
so have one engine in the front, normal,
Yeah.
running the rear differential.
Yes.
Have another engine and transmission
In the back.
backwards,
Yes, running the front.
running the front drive shaft. So it'd be 4-wheel
Perfect.
drive.
Yes, they're just crossing
And-
like pea streams in the night.
Yeah.
Like, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Perfect.
guys do things a little differently there in Texas, I guess. But I mean,
Yeah.
we don't do that kind of stuff here in Missouri.
Perfect.
You guys
It'll
don't?
be perfect.
Yes.
Oh, I thought that was a thing. I didn't realize.
And so we could put it in like one transmission in reverse, one in forward,
yes.
and like
Oh yeah.
opposite. Either
Yeah.
try to pull itself apart or push itself together.
Right.
Uh,
Okay, my suggestion: automatic transmissions, please.
yes. Oh
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
That.
Okay,
Well,
as
after-
dumb as the 305 is, it's not nearly as stupid as the SF465. That takes the cake. That is your worst decision.
Well, I know. I've never claimed to make a good decision maker. But you know, it is what it is because who else does it? You know,
Nobody.
who else? When you're at the drag strip, and you know it's just a 305, it's a truck, it's not going fast, but people are excited about it.
Oh yeah.
At my local drag strip, they're like, "Man, this reminds me of my grandpa's truck. You know, this is really cool. You're actually, you know,
What
it's
is your
getting down
local
the
track?
Ozark Mountain Raceway Park.
Oh, yeah,
Ozark
I know.
Raceway Park.
Yeah, I know the place. I've raced
yeah.
there a bunch. Yep. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that place is like a racetrack, only rougher.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
have been airborne in the shutdown area in the 66 there. It's like,
take the
yeah.
left lane.
oh,
I like
know.
the left
Yeah.
lane better. Yeah.
Yeah. Scotty
Anyway.
Palmer ran his top fuel car there
Yeah.
on more than one occasion. Yeah.
So I've had, you know, I was there and had some people, you know, they were kind of impressed with the truck for what it is. It's slow. But they're like, man, this is pretty cool. And they're looking inside and looking it over like, what transmission is that? I said, it's just draining low 4-speed, it's old dump truck transmission.
Yeah.
They're like, you're shifting that thing? And it just blows their mind.
Right. I love
You
it.
know, so like I said, I don't care if I'm ever the fastest with this truck. I know I could be way faster with the automatic. Trust me. I have one less 400 transmission,
He
Ryan.
does, because it's in
Yeah.
my shop.
But I do have turbo 400s. I've got turbo 350s.
Yeah.
I have a 200 4R.
Oh, that's a good trans.
I know. I told him to get that one in the barn.
Yeah. It needs to go on my daily driver. But anyhow, I've got the automatic to build an automatic. But man, why? And then,
465 brakes.
Right.
well,
All
nobody wants an SM465. I got a free one. Remember,
I know.
Ryan? You brought me a free one.
I did.
Yeah.
So
I brought him a backup.
nobody wants them. So I'll take them. And
Don't call me when it breaks that transmission. I don't want to bench press that thing under the truck.
no.
That's when you hit them bolts and just let her fall, bud.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let her fall.
Oh,
Make sure your arm's not under it.
I've got lots of experience with those transmissions and pulling them and
Yeah.
breaking them. I've
He's
trashed a few of them.
hernia from that.
That's awesome.
He's got a hernia from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, his name's Wilbur.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you want to see the old squeaky 305 4-speed truck getting down, be sure to be at Newport Dragway, April 27th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tailgate Throwdown. And if those have the balls to join us the race, then please come and bring your hot rod. It's got to have a tailgate. It's got to have a bed. We don't care if it's an El Camino. We do not discriminate, but it must be a truck. And the rules are pretty simple. Come and have some fun.
It could be a Subaru Brat.
It can be a Subaru Brat. You can bring a Subaru Brat. You will
With
be in the blue truck
The
class.
one
And then-
that
and then you're gonna see-
Travis Pastrana has, his Subaru Brat, that's really an Evo underneath, or not an Evo, WRX underneath is amazing. So
yeah, and then look, you got Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage. He's going to bring the Casper truck, the F100 with the Boss.
Yep,
that's a bad truck.
Yeah,
that's a bad truck. So there's going to be some good stuff there. It's going to be a great time. Get your kids, get the wife, put them in the car, ride Arkansas. It's beautiful.
If you're willing to line up with old Squeaky and get your ass handed to you by an SM465, Grady 04 speed, and a stroke 305, come on down. Get you some.
I'm gonna get you some. I'm gonna give you some. Let me tell you right now, Beba. I'm gonna give it, and I'm playing every game. It's gonna be a riot. We're gonna have fun for sure.
But and that's the thing is, I really don't know the games at the track. I'm not a track veteran, you know.
Right.
I've only gone to the track. I've never actually competed at a track, at any events. It's just been there for play, or my home track is test and tune. Now, I did have one opportunity or one golden moment with when the 305 was still in there. It had 250 shot of nitrous. Things were going right for me. There's a little Fox body Mustang with a single turbo LS in it. And we're just test and tune. I don't pay any attention to him. I'm racing myself.
Right.
And we take off, and I mean, we're right there together. I actually get to hit on him. I mean, Squeaky squats and launches. Everything's going great. And I'm having a good run. I'm not paying attention to him, but I do realize that he's not catching me. And of course, I was running quarter mile at that time.
Right.
At Rogersville, it's a quarter mile track unless you get up to a certain speed.
Right.
And then they'll back you off to 8th mile.
Yeah.
But everywhere else around me is 8th mile, so that's what I'm tuning the truck for is 8th mile. Anyhow, we hit the traps, and I get the wind light. I'm like, what? You know, no. I mean, I'm not going to get too excited about it because something may have happened to his car.
Right.
A buddy of mine was there, and I was like, what was up with that Mustang? He said, he was giving it all it had as far as he could tell. And I rewatched the video. Now, it may not have been perfectly tuned, whatever.
Right.
But I had the golden opportunity and the golden thumbnail of LS Killer 305 Granny 04 speed.
100%.
Yes, and I ran with it because as far as you could tell on video, as far as we could tell in live person,
you just beat him. Yeah.
I beat him.
Yeah.
And that I was hoping that guy would like come over to me and say, "Hey man, what you got in this truck?" And I could say, "Well, I got a 305 and a Granny 04 speed."
Yes, exactly. I got 100 says I'm going to drag your ass again in it. No. Dude, Chad, I got to tell you, I seriously enjoyed having you on the show tonight.
It's been
thank you so
here.
much for joining us. We will have you back. I'll have you on the show again, maybe even on Power Shift one night, which is our other show. You got to come on and hang out with all of us. It's a good time. That one that show we tend to get 5 and 6 and 7 people on at any given time, and it's a shit show and it's super fun. But I can't wait to hang out this year. We're gonna have some fun for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I feel like I'm kind of like Cousin Eddie on National Lampoons.
Yeah.
You know, I'm that guy in your world.
Yay, you're a good guy. That's all that matters.
Buddy. We're all that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, seriously appreciate it. I hope your holidays were good. Have a safe New Year's. Great. Everybody that's out there and been watching tonight, dude, we went 2 hours tonight, just having a good time, and really appreciate everybody joining us. I hope everybody had a great Christmas and has a good, safe New Year's. Yep. You know, this year, I don't know how it is where you guys live, but Ryan and I were talking about it. Dude, I saw an insane number of car accidents on Christmas Eve and Christmas. There is nowhere you got to be that's that important on the holidays. So Uber, Lyft, get a buddy to drive you. Don't drive drunk. Don't get in a hurry. Screw it. Remember Chad's rule. This is Chad's rule. You can't make an entrance if you're on time or early. So be late. Who cares? They'll save some for you. It doesn't matter.
And you can't be early if you're dead.
No, you cannot. And you do not want to spend the your New Year's Eve night or New Year's morning in the emergency room. So just not good. So guys, take it easy, be safe, have fun. Again, Chad, awesome, dude. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks, Ryan, dude. And thanks for the Christmas cruise. Remember, Streetcar Chronicles and Square Body Stuff on YouTube. Follow them, and you guys will be entertained by fellow bearded fat guys. I mean, that's really where we're at here.
Really, really bad. We appreciate it. Thank you.
If I get down to my race weight, I'll be under 4,000 pounds in the truck.
Nice. All right, guys. I appreciate it. Again, Chad, thank you. We will see you next time. All right. Have a good one. All right, folks. Again, thanks for joining us, Ryan. You're the man. Appreciate you. I'm actually going to the street races now. I'm going to the RC car street races right now. So, yeah, I was supposed to be there 45 minutes ago.
Okay. Well, let's show up late. You know how it goes.
Make an entrance. Yeah. All right. Tell everybody I said hi.
I will, man. We'll talk to you later.
All right. See ya. Happy New Year, everybody.